Hey there, Tamir from Fibonacci-Traders.com here. Daily market recap, January 3rd, 2024. SPY friends started 2024 on the red side, so like, subscribe and stay tuned for the rest of the video. SPY and friends open 2024 on the red side. 468 now is holding a support. Below it we are heading towards this orange trend line. We have a broadening formation. We touched and got rejected from the upper border of this broadening formation. Now we are heading towards this orange trend line at the 465, maybe even at the 462, breaking below the 468, and we might get the same price action we saw over here. We might see it the same price action, but to the downside. So prepare for both sides. For now, looks like SPY bears are not back from holiday season. QQQ 397 now is holding. We have this white trend line. We might get a touch and a bounce of this white trend line, same as we saw over here. Same as we saw over here. From support, resistance, support, support. Can this white trend line hold once again support for the Qs? If not, 394, 390, and then 378 gap will get filled. Dow Jones showing some relative strength relative to the SPY and the Qs, of course, holding on this green trend line, breaking below, and we are heading towards this orange trend line. For now, we are still inside this uptrend channel, breaking down and under this channel, and we will see 363 and 361 to the downside, but you don't need to guess. You can take Fibonacci, swing low, swing high, and as you can see, this trend line together with the 373, 374 is the support. Below it, we're heading back to the 371 together with this orange trend line, and then same price action we saw over here. We might, with the highest probability, we will see to the downside back to 360. Of course, everything is my opinion, according to my experience, my risk tolerance. Do your own due diligence. It's perfectly fine to get ideas, but in the end of the day, do your own due diligence. 193.64 gap is still open. As we can see, IWM tried, but it's still open. Let's see, can we just close this gap and go back inside this channel? IWM, since the peak last week, already down 5.5%. Continuation to the downside, and we will see 187 and then 184. XLV broke above this white trend line. Now retesting it as support. As you can see, it was resistance, 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 broke, support, breaking below it. We are back to the 136.65, long continuation, and next we will see 141, 142 to the upside. XLE, when SPY and Qs are going red, XLE is going green. Now all we need is continuation above the 86.70 in all this area. As you can see, very tough resistance since the gap down beginning of November. Long continuation above this area, and we will see 87.70 and then 90 to the upside. SOXX continuing to melt down. Two gaps, major gaps to the downside, and SOXX since the peak already lost 7%. One more percent will be perfectly fine. 8%. 8 is a Fibonacci number. Let's see, another 1% to the downside. Touch, bounce of this white trend line. Back up above 555. As you can see, trend lines are the true support and guidance for future price action. Doji of a trend line. Look what happened here. Doji of a trend line. Upside. Back, retesting. Doji of a trend line. Back up. Now, once again, Doji of a trend line. Can this doji, third time, will signal us the trend reversal, bounce back up? All we need to do is follow price, use Fibonacci, multi-time frames. This is how SOXX looks on the weekly. After 2 consecutive dojis, struggling with the 584, we got ourselves a red, nice red candle. 536 is the support. Below it, ask Fibonacci. Fibonacci, swing low, swing high, 520, 502 to the downside. Always zoom in, zoom out, get a better point of view of price action, and just follow trend lines and Fibonacci, and they will tell you with the highest probability where price might be heading next. KRE, once again retesting this lower trend line. This trend line is holding the higher lows since October of 2023. All we need to do is stay above this orange trend line, look for a doji, then a bounce back, and then we are good to go. Long above 53.35, but if KRE will continue to melt down 50, 48, 47, and then back to the 43.50, prepare for both sides. Bitcoin, news or not, fake or not, basically moving sideways. This tail, consider it like a gap. This tail, very high probability, will get filled with the next few candles. Ethereum, same thing, holding above the 21.91. Also, we have a big tail to the downside. These tails, these kind of tails, more than 80-85% chance they are getting filled with the next candles. Gold, nothing much. Inside day for now. Looks like gold is heading south, retesting this orange trend line. Can we get the same price action we saw over here? Downtrend, doji, bounce. Downtrend, doji, bounce. This is what I'm looking for on gold to start my long position on gold. Breaking down and under, and we are heading back to the 1970 and 1930 to the downside. Crude oil. One candle does not change the overall sentiment. The overall sentiment is south. Look at these trend lines. Picture them as road. A road south until proven otherwise. Natural gas futures 270, tough resistance. Above it 286 and 3. If you want to go natural gas and you're not long yet, here you have a slight uptrend, trying to bounce. Long continuation above this area towards the 286 and then 3 to the upside. Apple continuing to sell off. Now 182, 183 area from resistance. As you can see here, resistance, resistance, resistance. Needs to hold those resistance. We have a doji. We need a bounce of the 183. Otherwise, 178 and 173 to the downside. For now, Apple is going south. If you remember, a few days ago, already 1 week if I'm not mistaken, we had the pre-market preparations December 26, and we talked about a black swan event. And here it is. Apple, look at this kind of a gap. When was the last time Apple had this kind of gap? August. What happened then? From this gap, she went down 9.8, let's say 10%. 10% to the downside will send us back to the one 73. I don't say it will happen. Most likely, high probability, it will. AMD another 2.3% to the downside, but you know these trend lines. We have talked about that AMD needs to retest this trend line, make a doji, same as it did here, same as it did here. Now we have a doji of a trend line. Doji of a trend line is the most significant signal for what might come. A trend reversal, bounce to the upside. Can we get it? Can we see it? Only time will tell. Let's see tomorrow and Friday how AMD will close the week. For now, we need a weekly close above 142. And then it's another 5% to the upside this week. Not probably that it will do it, but never say never. Tesla continuing to melt down another 4% to the downside. 234 now is the support. All this area, very important area of support. Below it, 226, and this gap will get filled. Below this one, where Tesla might be heading next. 216 and back to the 200s. Shopify 2.7% to the downside, holding with a doji of this major support area. Very important area of support, the 71. Only by looking left we can identify and we can see that this area, the 71 area, is a very important area of support. Doji, can we get a bounce, or same price action we saw over here, we might get over here. Few days sideways move, and then Shopify will decide whether to go down, closing this gap, the same price action we see over here. We might get to the downside towards this gap, the 62, or change of sentiment in the market, and then back up, closing this gap, and then 80 once again. For now, nothing much on Shopify. Meta with an inside candle, inside doji. We need retesting this purple trend line to the downside. All this area, very important area of support. We need the bounce of this area, same as did here, 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 and here. Can we get the fifth time over here and back to 370? Overall, the market is in a sell-off conditions. So if you're looking for longs, not yet. Patience. Patience in trading is a virtue. Work on your patience. You don't need to trade every day. You don't need to take any setup that you see. The overall sentiment now is taking profits. Google, relative strength, 0.5% to the upside. But as you can see, Fibonacci and trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. Long continuation above 140 and then 142. Below 137, and we will see retesting this orange trend line once again. And then we will look, you guessed it, for a doji and a bounce. Same as it did here, here, and here. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is it. This is technical analysis. You set your rules, you set your strategy, and you follow them like a broken record. Rules are rules. Netflix, what do we see here? If you are a pattern seeker, left shoulder, head, maybe closing this gap, bouncing off this orange trend line, back to the 480 area, and then flash to the downside. We will see it. No one knows. But for now, Netflix, what do we see? This uptrend channel, this white uptrend channel broke to the downside, and if Netflix will fail to break up above and close above the 480, this gap will get filled, and then we are heading south to the 446. Amazon 1% to the downside, but Amazon holding inside this channel, the yellow channel, breaking down and under, same as Netflix, almost identical price action. We will see to the downside. Below 147, we will see 143. Sideways move, same as Shopify. Or breaking below it. 140, 136, and back to the 125. Remember, price likes to go back to areas he visited before. It depends if it's bullish or bearish. And if you remember Nvidia, we have talked about this double top scenario few weeks back, and it's getting validated. Today closed with a doji. We have a massive double top on the weekly, on the monthly already, because it started over November. And we have this double top, daily double top, inside the weekly double top, continuation to the downside, take Fibonacci. 471 needs to hold, otherwise 452, below 452, you guessed it, the same price action we saw over here to the upside, we will get the same price action to the downside, closing this gap and going back to the 400. Let me know in the comments below. Will we see this massive double top scenario on Nvidia getting validated? Yes or no? Let me know. And if you are already long on Nvidia, in my opinion, if I was long on Nvidia, in this case, I would manage my stops very, very tight. Microsoft, another day, another nothing. Same as we did yesterday, same as we said yesterday, same as we said on Microsoft since beginning of November. 365 needs to hold, otherwise sliding down to the 347 and 340. Long continuation above 377, and then we will see 400 and 422. So I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because we are going live every day, pre-market preparations, 8:30 Eastern Time. Until then, stay safe.